So this is my first full day here, one of 2 full days and 2 half days here in Chapada. And don't waste any time. Our guide Enrique is taking myself and 3 others, a family from Rio, out for a very fun-filled, exciting day in the national park.
Vou pegar minha máquina, eu vou fazer a registro de algumas coisas para vocês e compartilho depois.
Vou pegar o meu.
A relatively short 30-minute car ride outside of a town, and we're already at our first stop of the day. Really efficient way to start. Apparently there was a lightning strike here not too long ago, which just torched all this around. This is just charred. I mean, even the big trees didn't remain unscathed. This is Cidade da Pedra, rock house, and I think this is it up here. We'll see. These very unusual rock formations greet us on our way to what would be a spectacular view in the valley. Amazing view down in the valley. I think it's going to get better. Later in this day, we're actually going to be down in that valley, on that small little rock outcrop looking up where we are now. So there's this pair of scarlet macaws, which were just having so much fun with us as we were hiking, and finally later we get a chance to see them, but they were so loud, it was just amazing. This vista was just a short hike down from the original place where we had a chance to look down on the valley. It wasn't far away.
Com certeza, seu papel, né? Muito lindo.
Verdade.
Olha as duas aqui embaixo, que lindas acima.
Oh, yeah.
Ai, meu Deus, uma laranja
Passa
e azul.
Vamos lá
Blue and red.
Olha.
Oh, there! Que legal. Wow.
Ele vai filmando assim.
Bom dia.
Coisa linda.
Bom dia.
Que linda.
So even though it was a Friday, there were just a handful of other hikers that we encountered. Uh-oh. Caca de turistas?
No, it's a wolf.
Huh?
Wolf.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Fox. So, was a little dog.
turistas.
No, it's a people.
Caramba. E o dia tá perfeito, né? Porque tá sol, tá aquele
Tá,
calorão.
Wolf sheep.
Lindo.
So this cool little lizard was up here catching some rays. The owl we saw earlier and the macaws. I wasn't expecting the wildlife. That was just a bonus because these views really blew me away. You can see this just got smoked. We certainly heard much more wildlife than what we actually saw. They were out there, we couldn't see them all. You can see Enrique there taking pictures. He was kind enough to send me, about 24 photos after our trip. He took some really, really nice shots that otherwise I wouldn't have even seen. He was also kind enough to remind me to take my hat off, otherwise it would get blown over the cliff. The hike from the parking area was quite easy, flat, quick, level ground, but you need hat, sunglasses, sunscreen, because it was intense. Even early in the morning, the sun was intense. And after Stone City and Lookout, we're on to what most would consider the star of the park. And once again, this would be a relatively quick hike over relatively level ground to another amazing attraction here in Chapada dos Guimarães. Thanks. Cachoeira Véu de Noiva comes in at about 280 feet of waterfall, and right now it's dry season, and so the volume is about at its lowest point possible. All this is just 10 minutes outside of town, and even on a Friday, there's just no one here. All those crowds from Cayuba just haven't made it yet. Now, you'll see Saturday, even Sunday, a little bit busier, but as of now, you can see, it's pretty mellow.
Alright, that was the famous Trilha do Monte do Véu de Noiva. That was the famous Bridal Veil lookout. That one's closed. I don't know why. It's the entrance. We parked over there. There's really not a lot of people here, which is again pretty cool. Oh, I got two of those boards. We were here earlier to pick up some keys.
On our way to our third stop of the day, Enrique was kind enough to point out the highlights on our way there.
Registro de deserto já existiu no ambiente. Rocha da transversal para a direita, para a esquerda. Olha aquele vale lá em cima, lá tem uma taça lá no alto, olha lá. Lá no fundo.
Wow.
As linhas que você vê na transversal na rocha, elas são do vento. Uma duna não é composta por uma camada que vem do sul, uma camada que vem do norte. Vai ver o ponto? Chama-se gravitação cruzada. Você vê isso lá da rocha. Lá você vê uma parede de véu, que rocha na horizontal, uma sobre a outra, né? Os paredes são próximas na horizontal. Cordilhas. Isso aí se forma quando era o mar raso, sedimento dentro do mar, que depois está lentamente no fundo, formando aquelas placas que você vê. Nessa região aqui, não.
Eventually, it became necessary to get off the pavement.
É a melhor fase da vida é essa.
Por isso que é uma fase só.
Quanto peixinho.
This is Poço das Antas, and the temperature was perfect on a nice hot day outside of Cayuba. These crystal clear pools reminded me of those that I saw in Chapada Guimarães also. Just crystal clear water, tiny little fish. We drank from this as well too, completely safe. This place was almost totally silent. The sound of the water pretty much drowned everything out, although it was quiet background. Occasionally you would hear something in the background, a bird or something, but more or less it was just the tranquil sound of running water. And if you were curious about bugs or insects or things, while we saw a couple around, there was zero mosquitoes or any kind of gnats or any kind of biting fly. Insects were just not even on the radar. They were not an issue at all. It really is difficult to describe it. I guess the best way for me is just to say this felt like another world. It felt like another planet, even with just a handful of other great people, Enrique and the other folks in our party. It just felt like a whole other planet. There was an amazingly friendly family from Rio de Janeiro, a husband, wife, daughter that were visiting here for the first time, and the husband had traveled all over the world, and his English was excellent as well as the daughter, and they were just wonderful people to chat with the entire day. While I'm not a huge snorkel fan, this was the ideal place to do a little bit of snorkeling, as it kind of wound up being a little bit of a circle. You can go around, but I enjoyed above as much as underneath the water. And after a really refreshing jump into that water, it was time for our fourth stop of the day, the stop that I was most looking forward to of all day. This was the view for me that I had most anticipated. And this is the parking area, no one here. So from the parking area, there's obviously a little bit of a grange age scrambling up this small little outcrop, but nothing strenuous I would consider. From past experience on excursions like these, good guides will let the quicker ones go first and the slower ones kind of go in the back, and I wish that's how it would have happened here, but wasn't the end of the world. So here again we see Vale do Rio Claro, but from the valley itself. Earlier in the day, we were up on the plateau to the left of that outcrop, looking down. Of my 4 days here in Chapada dos Guimarães, this was the view that I was most looking forward to the entire time. This is an extremely unique ecosystem because it acts as a transition between the Cerrado and the Amazon rainforest. And the plateau, the Guimarães Plateau, acts as a dividing line between both the Paraguay and the Amazon river basins. I find the geology of the area even more interesting, and we'll touch on that in future videos, but right now we're heading to our 5th stop of the day. This is Poço das Esmeraldas, and this would feel really nice after that long hike in the valley. Great way to cool off at the end of the day. This place was just as cool as the other one. There seemed to be a few more fish here, but I still kept wondering, especially on a Friday, going into the weekend, it's like, where are all the people? Where are they? I'm not sure if these fish wanted food, or they were used to being fed, or they were just curious, I don't know, but there was a lot of them. This was another location where we did stop. We filled our canteens. We drank from this area. And it goes against like every single natural instinct you have to not drink from an open water source. But our guide, Enrique, just like my guide in Chapada Guimarães, is like, don't worry, it's no problem. It's filtered. It's fine. It's clean. But it just feels really weird taking a drink from an open water source like that. But, you know, there was no issue. There's no problem at all, and it tasted great. And as amazing as this day would wind up being, it would eventually be time to head back into town before it got dark. And after a long day outside, we're all just famished, ready for some food. And the icing on the cake is that we're just not far from town, so hopping back into town doesn't take long.
So there's a little street my posada's on. There's one other business I think that's actually open and not like run down, decrepit, abandoned like this. I don't know what this was, but so it's pretty quiet. There's not a lot of traffic here. I'm about a 5-minute walk from real downtown. The folks who I was with today were staying way outside of town, so they're driving to get to a restaurant, or they're just a slave to their posada. Breakfast was really good this morning. We're gonna there's some cool little buildings downtown. Before I grab a bite, before it gets too dark to see them, I want to check them out. This is a big giant empty field, which oh, what's going on in there? Probably pick up some real estate here pretty cheap. All right, I'll tell you. Chapada.
As of a few years ago, the town of Chapada dos Guimarães came in at about 15,000 people.
Little downtown central square. Hasn't really totally cranked up yet, but there are a few vendors out here selling their wares.
This is just a cursory introduction to the town square of Chapada. We will see more in future videos, and fortunately we'll see more with more people as well.
Well lit, family friendly, very clean. Your typical little bodegas and restaurants. Once again though, there are way more staff than there are tourists at this point. Seems to be a normal thing, but yeah, they just need more people here right now. Way overstaffed. Seen this before.